Ready, Kate?
Sure.
Turn going your way.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank everyone for coming. We're going to bring the May 6th, 2024 Area Plan Commission meeting to order. We'd like for you to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please silence your cell phone. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we do roll call, I'd like to introduce a couple of new commission members that we have with us tonight. We have a full commission. So I want to welcome Jim McWhort, representative from Sweetser. And I want to welcome Dr. Dana Richmond, representative from Upland, Indiana. So with that being said, Katie, let's do roll call.
All right. Bothwell.
Yes.
Caldell.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
McWhort.
Here.
Knuckles.
Here.
Nevers is not here. Pearson.
Here.
Colin. Richmond. Here. Schultz.
Here.
Stewart's not here. Todd.
Here.
And Randy's obviously there. Okay.
All right, first item, number 3, approval of the minutes. Please take a look at the March 18th, 2024 minutes. I did notice that I believe that Steve Kelly is on the roll call, and I do not believe Steve Kelly attended that meeting. So we probably want to check into that. That's the only correction that I saw.
It's the March meeting.
March 18th. Thank you.
I believe Klein Peters misspelled. I don't know how important that is.
Mr. President,
Yes,
are the minutes here from the executive session?
we are not. I will round those up and we'll present those in the June meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that just my mind?
Any other corrections on the March 18th minutes? Entertain a motion whenever someone would like to do so.
I would so move to approve the minutes from March 18th meeting as written, with the corrections we discussed.
Motion by Mr. Knuckles. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Second by Mr. Pearson. Roll call vote.
Bothwell.
Abstain.
Caldell.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
McWhort.
Abstain.
Knuckles.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Colin.
Yes.
Richmond.
Abstain.
Schultz.
Yes.
Todd.
Abstain.
All right. Minutes of the April 1st minute. Please take a look at those.
I'm sick.
I have 6 on that letter.
Do I need to vote?
Yep.
All right, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. April 1st.
Here's 5.3. It is missing. I'm not sure what that's going to be on the agenda. But I would like to add, I believe we did vote on actually ratifying the actions from the March 18th minutes. Not right now, all I have is that I amended the agenda to ratify, but I didn't have the actual vote for ratification. So I don't want to be a stickler, but after we were in the paper, I want to make sure we're sticklers.
Okay. Is that understood, Katie?
No, but I'm so sorry.
Okay. Let's do that again, please.
So right now, it's in the minutes that we voted to amend the agenda to ratify the March 18th minutes. Then immediately afterwards, we voted to ratify.
Right.
I know that sounds silly, but you can't vote on things unless they're on the agenda.
Right.
So just add in an additional vote to ratify, which I recall was unanimous, and I would have made the motion. So we went round and round for a while, but I think near the end
I
of the
remember
discussion
what
on
you're talking
video.
about, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other additions, comments, corrections to the April 1st minutes?
I do have a question, President Atkins. This would probably be an appropriate time to do this. We might want to refer to our attorney about this, but I know that we've been under the impression in the past that a president does not vote except to make a tie or break a tie. I don't believe that that's true. I really think that you have the opportunity to vote anytime that you wish. But under Robert's rules and so on, that's what we've done. Yet what we just did was to ask you to vote, not to break a tie or make a tie, but to make the motion or to approve the motion. We had 6. So you weren't voting to make a tie or break a tie. And I think that's appropriate, but we've been under the impression that you only vote. So could you speak to that, please?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think technically you're correct. I don't know exactly what Robert's Rules of Orders says on that. I would imagine there would be language in there that allows to vote for a motion to pass also. I don't know that for a fact. And that's just the way it's been done as long as I've been here. Certainly, I think you could put in the rules which are currently being discussed to allow the president to vote, which those have not been finalized yet, so that could easily be done.
If we were to get rid of Robert's rules, then that would take care of that?
That would certainly take care of that for sure, or you could just say this overrides whatever provisions of Robert's Rules has. If you didn't want to get completely rid of Robert's Rules.
I think if we were to look at Robert's rules, I'm somewhat familiar with that. You have the right, the president has the right, as does any other person, to vote on any issue, to make a motion, to do whatever. Robert's rules does not prevent that at all. The things that you want to cover. Problem with considering doing a waiver of Robert's rules is what do you replace it with? Are we just going to fly it by the seat of the pants? But I'd like to make the point that what you did is perfectly right.
Okay.
And that you have the right to do that at any time on any question that we have. The only time that comes up is one specific issue, which I'll be able to, I don't have it before me, but I can point that out. But you have the right, under Robert's rules,
Okay.
to make a motion to vote whenever you like. So what you did, I think, is appropriate, but our past practice has been inappropriate.
I will exercise my right to vote whenever I feel the need
Whenever
to
you
do
feel
so.
like it, the right.
You are a member in full standing.
Okay. All right, how about moving on with the minutes of April 1st? Any other corrections or comments?
Move to accept the minutes of April 1st with the amendments.
A motion from Mr. Soltz. A second, Mrs. Pullen.
Okay. Blackwell,
Yes.
Cordell,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
McCord,
Abstain.
Cockles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Bowen,
Yes.
Brickman,
Abstain.
Schultz,
Yes.
Todd.
Abstain.
Okay, we are going to pull this agenda a little bit. We're going to move down to 4.2 and take care of some new business, not knowing exactly what will follow in regard to the sake of time, but I think it's important that we that we have the public hearings in regard to the new business. So with that being said, we'll start a public hearing on docket number 04Z-24, Liberty Baptist Church rezoning. Ryan, could you give us a report on that, please?
Yes. This is public hearing for a rezoning. The address is 4814 West Delphi Pike, here in Indiana, for Liberty Baptist Church. For Mr. Rittner here.
Yes.
If you could come up to the podium, please. They are asking to rezone from an R1 to general business. They are asking to do this in consideration of they are wanting to replace their current sign on 18 to a digital sign. If you remember, the digital signs are allowed in Grant County now through an ordinance that we did, but they're allowed by special exception. But they are not allowed in residential areas. So they are wanting to rezone to general business. That will be a recommendation from us to the Sweetser Town Board. And then from there, with the Sweetser Town Board approval, they will come back to the BZA for a special exception. So that's their path, and this is kind of the first step.
Okay. Would you like to share with us any thoughts you have in regard to that?
I think it's fairly straightforward. Do you have any questions?
Okay.
I have a question for Ryan. I mean, are churches, are they generally general business? Are they generally residential? Is it just one half dozen? Yeah, okay.
In this, I should have added, we have across the street, all the way down to Main Street, Sweetser is general business.
Okay.
Also with this property, the surrounding properties around where this sign is located is all owned by the Baptist Church too.
Yeah.
There is a house across the street. There is a house down in Little there. The property down.
Yes.
So there's another house, but for the most part, surrounding property is all Liberty Baptist.
So what would a general business zoning allow them to do that they wouldn't have been able to do before?
Well, general business opens up pretty much everything. But what we're looking at is in the land use table, the digital signs are not allowed in residential areas.
Okay.
So our like zoning around it is we have 2-3 blocks of general business across the street, all the way down.
We have no plans to change anything that we're currently doing.
That was my question.
Yes, this is strictly for purposes of replacing the sign.
Okay.
And we have a sign ordinance. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I'm just going to ask the question. The sign that you have planned, how does that compare in size to the current sign?
It is all the same, except that our current sign is 10 feet wide and the new one will only be 8 feet wide. So
Taller?
No, the height is exactly the same and it's just slightly shorter. So
I know we had a letter in our packet that talked about someone that had some concern about that, and I did have a conversation with that person today just to see what his feelings were. And obviously he's concerned about being able to see, when he leaves his property, which is next to you,
Sure.
onto the highway.
Yeah.
And it seems like he, has, I guess I'll say, tolerated that condition for a long time now since there's a sign there. But I wanted to make sure the sign was no larger than what currently is there.
no, it will not be. In fact, it will be somewhat smaller.
Okay, thank you. And one more question for Ryan, maybe, or for you, Mr. Atkins. I'm getting back in the swing of this thing, so I haven't been here for a few years now. So the question I have is, it seems to me, looking at this would be a topic for BZA instead of us, because they could just get the exception for the variance, in that location. Am I thinking wrong there, or?
Well, it is currently zoned R1. So in our land use table, it does not allow digital signs in R1.
Even if the BZA grants an exception, that would still not allow, we have to act on that too.
We're trying to rezone them so that they can get to the special exception.
And do we, I know that you, so we had general business across the street on the other side of the highway. Where they are located, it's residential along there except for them, I would say.
Right.
Do we have any concern about that being a spot situation, a spot zoning of any kind? Is that a concern?
That's what we're looking at. I mean, we have directly across is, you have a house that you have Dollar General and.
Right.
So.
Yeah, across the street, no question, it's business.
So the closest thing I have to that zoning would be across the street all the way down to Main Street is all general business.
Right.
Again, with this just across the street, both properties on both sides are their properties also.
Yeah. And I personally don't have any problem with that, as long as that sign's the same size or less, that's good for me, I guess. But I just want to make sure we're hitting those issues, because I didn't want to spot zone it.
Right. Now, if this was sitting all by itself in the middle of a neighborhood, that's a whole different story.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
We have an ordinance to make sure it's like not too bright and stuff, right? Those are
Yes.
existing, you know, so, yeah, I'll move to approve this.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you. Thank you. Anyone like to speak in opposition to this request? Okay, hearing none, then I will close this hearing, and the commission is free to speak among ourselves, and then we'll entertain a motion that Mr. Schultz was ready to give us.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt anybody, but I'll move to accept.
Well, let's see if we got any other discussion.
I thought you were prompting me.
No, not yet. Okay.
Our concern is that in the past, spot zoning has been something that we have tried to defer ourselves from. In the recent past, we have used contracts to spot zones, whatever it has amounted to. We've done that 3 times, I think, out on Muncie Pike. We found that to not be a very good kind of thing. I remember Mr. Counts, who used to be here from Jonesboro, he was always very concerned about spot zoning. Just want to make certain, and I think he was correct about that, and I think that we have been rather careful about that. So I want us to either acknowledge again and reaffirm that we are very, very careful about anything that appears to be spot zoning. Okay? And that this is not to be interpreted by anyone as a change in our policy.
So my question to Ryan would be then, what other thing could we do with digital signs, considering that this could be something that comes up in the future that would not require us to necessarily change the zoning ordinance, if anything?
Well, I just have this down here. If you remember, when we did digital signs, at that time, digital signs were not allowed anywhere in Green. So what we tried to do is put together an ordinance. Right now, the location for digital sign displays are allowed by special exception only in public business, neighborhood convenience, local business, general business, and all industrial zones, I-1, I-2, and I-3. So they are not allowed in any residential zones.
Okay, and that makes sense because,
We wanted to take them on a case-by-case basis, because what we talked about in certain locations, are they blocking line of sight? Are they too bright? So we wanted to have something to control them, but we also wanted to do it case by case.
sure, okay. Thank you. I think that helps all of us understand. Yes, Jim?
You know, thought with that, and Mr. Ricker did refer in his comments to the fact that there are no plans by the church to do anything different in that, property. As far as the, general business open things up to a lot of things. They aren't looking to exercise that right, I guess. Would it be appropriate for us to consider in our recommendation to the town council of Sweetser that we approve this with the understanding and a restriction that this be for this sign only, even though it's general business?
Would that be our role, or are we simply making a recommendation for a zoning change to the commissioners?
Right.
this case, Sweetser Town Board is the legislative body.
Oh, okay, so this is going to, okay.
I know in the past, we have done some things where we've allowed permission in a change, but we've restricted it to what they've indicated they want to use it for. So it doesn't open up the door to everything.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to.
And I wonder they also have next door to them, I believe it's counseling and some.
Okay, there's a some counseling area.
Too. Could almost say, with that possibly because we have public into that, would that be, we could change that in there too.
And that's just a thought. I mean, it'd be one of those things that kind of alleviates that question. If you open it up too much, this kind of restricts it.
To avoid spot zoning, and if we wanted to take it case by case, should we just amend the land use table to say it's by special exception in residential? I mean, that might delay this one request, unfortunately, but to prevent every church that's in residential or every counseling center that's in residential, we can just say, come to the BZA if you want a digital sign in general.
I don't want to do that tonight. I think these folks want to sign.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it might be worth considering.
And we just did this less than a year ago for the other Sweetser church on Main Street. Just put in additional to it. So they went this route. Again, Sweetser, we're talking, we are on State Road 18, but considered residential law.
Okay. Other questions, comments, commission?
One last thought about that. The property, Andy, where is Andy?
Yes, right here.
Andy, you own the property on either side of the church as well, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. So would it be appropriate for us to indicate that those properties are not going to be a part of this? Should it just be the property where the church sits instead of opening up additional properties that are there to general business? For example, I guess what I'm concerned about, does the zoning, if we make this change, does it follow the church or does it follow the property? If for some horrible reason, I see it happening everywhere around us though, the church were to determine that it's no longer feasible for us to continue and they were to sell the property and it is zoned general business, then we have, so if this zoning is to follow the property, right, and it does, right, is that correct?
My address?
Be careful.
My address or just
It's
the legal description of that property?
Yeah, if you're rezoning it, you are making a change to the law, and basically, you are changing its zoning.
Okay.
So it's change, it is an ordinance change. It goes to the legislative body for approval.
But I think what Bob's asking is what geographical area are we actually acting on?
So we've got the parcel on here, but on long 18, you've got 3 church properties and then the church itself. So I believe there are 4 properties.
And we're talking about one property right
We're
now.
talking about the one where the sign is on separate.
Just the one, not the, right, it is.
Right.
I don't have.
So it wouldn't be all the properties, it'd just be that one.
Right.
Okay, we're going to welcome a motion.
No, sir.
Now, Clayton, got a long night.
I don't need to be bit more than once, Randy.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll second.
For Mr. Dodd, second for Mr. McWhirter. Roll call vote. You have a cheat card, Ryan, or Clayton.
Boswell,
Yes.
Caudell,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
McWhirter,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Poland, Richmond,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
All right, that motion passes to send a recommendation to the legislative body, which would be the Sweetser Town Board, correct? Correct. Okay, the next public hearing that we have is docket number 05Z-24, Fernando Galdi. Give Brian an opportunity to catch up here.
You're good.
Now, do we have the actual petitioner with us? Yes. Okay, have we got accurate or the permission for this gentleman to speak for them? Have we got that cleared? Okay. Would you like to come up with us? We're going to allow Ryan to give us some background information. We'll just ask that you tell us who you are, and then you can roll with it. Let's go.
All right, this is a rezoning. This is docket. This is docket 05Z-24. Our applicant's name is Fernando Ugalde. The address in question is 2010 North Hamilton Road, Marion, Indiana. Mr. Ugalde is asking for a rezoning from a residential suburban to a general business. And this will be a zoning map amendment. There is a lot to this, so I figure I will let Mr. Miller kind of take the lead on it so that we don't just go over the same stuff. But I'll be here for questions. I will say with this, Mr. Ugalde, this has been, we've been involved, IDEM we've been included with IDEM. We have been involved since the beginning in talking. We have been out there several times to talk to him about what's going on. They have done a good job as far as just keeping us, I guess is what I want to say. We've also been included writing as well.
And Mr. Miller will give us all that background, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jason Miller with Randall Miller Associates. I'm a professional engineer and a professional land surveyor. Address of our office is 145 East 3rd Street here in Marion. With me this evening is the petitioner and the applicant, Mr. Fernando Ugalde, and we will be glad to answer any questions upon presenting this petition before you this evening. So as presented in the petition, the current property is classified as residential suburban, RS. And the petitioner is intending to develop this property with a restaurant and event center, which is not a permitted use within the RS residential suburban zone. Therefore, we are requesting a zoning amendment to GB general business on this property. The property is located on the south side of State Road 9 or Huntington Road, west of North Meridian Street, and east of the railroad tracks, which is also east of North Washington Street. The residential suburban current zoning classification, in our opinion, is not consistent with the neighboring use for the two businesses that are currently in the area, the first being the bait shop located to the west, and additionally, the current refueling station, the gas station, to the east and at the southeast corner of State Road 9 and North Washington Street. Rezoning or zoning amendment to a general business use would be consistent with the proposed development that Mr. Ugalde is requesting. The property itself is located on a state highway, adjacent to a railroad, a city wastewater treatment plant, and it's between two existing long-standing businesses in Grant County. In reviewing a request for a zoning amendment, you have in the petition a reasonableness test. That's consistent with IC 3674603. That's in the petition. And I'll read a few of the items that you'll then deciding on whether or not we are meeting those requirements for a zoning amendment. The first is why and how the petition complies or is consistent with the master plan. First and foremost, you're very aware that the comprehensive plan is extremely outdated. Its current version is 1991. You're currently undergoing a comprehensive plan update that will review the current land use, the current transportation network, and every other matter that's within a comprehensive plan through Indiana code. The proposed land use in the current comprehensive plan is from 2010, which is 14 years old. And it shows an area that is somewhat illegible. We believe it's either residential or commercial. And those would both be consistent with the current zoning classification and the requested zoning classification. We believe that the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the anticipated or forecasted use adjacent to an incorporated area such as the city of Marion. And that's also consistent with the two businesses that are adjacent, as well as the city's wastewater treatment facility to the south. The next question you are asked is why and how the proposed classification is consistent with the current conditions and character within the immediate neighborhood. The existing gas stations east of the property, the bait store west of the property, River's Edge Fun Center to the northwest of the subject property, and the wastewater treatment plant are all businesses which supports the zoning amendment for a business use. The next question is how and why the proposed classification is consistent with the most desirable use of the property. The most desirable use of this property formerly would have been residential, and as development occurs in an urbanized area or adjacent to the urbanized area, conversion of residential uses or other uses, vacant properties would be consistent with a business use, whether that be general business, local business, or other commercial values. The most desirable use for this property, again being adjacent to a state highway, a railroad, and a major thoroughfare being North Meridian Street, is consistent with a general business use. The fourth question is if the petition will substantially conserve property values in the immediate area in the jurisdiction surrounding the property. And with a development, you'll see increased property values due to the development itself. Conversion of this property to a business use is an investment by Mr. Ugaldi, and therefore will increase or at least retain property values in the immediate area. And finally, is the property responsible development and growth within the jurisdiction? We believe that it is responsible development and growth not only for Grant County, but also for the city of Marion. This property is adjacent to the city corporate boundary. And the use for the wastewater treatment plant and the other two business uses in the approximate area are all responsible development and responsible growth. This subject property in a non-residential use would also be responsible development and responsible growth and promotion of growth within Grant County. So I would ask that you provide a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners for the amendment to the zoning classification for this subject property as a GB general business classification, and would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Yes, Mr.
I
McWhorter.
appreciate the presentation. Just a question, I guess. Can you give us a little more detail about what you're planning to put into that location?
Sure. So as of right now, what the desire is, which is driving the general business use, is a restaurant, Ugaldi's restaurant, and an event center. The event center would be for common events for family and youth activities to provide similar to a third space. You've got home, you've got work, and you've got play. So this area would be birthday parties, potentially wedding venues, wedding reception areas, anything that you would have an event. We don't know the size yet. Obviously, a lot of that's going to be dependent upon whether or not this zoning amendment is approved. If the zoning amendment is approved, is not approved, I'm sorry, then everything we've just described is not a permitted use, and none of that can happen on this property.
I know I went by there just a couple days ago just to look, and a lot of trees are being removed now, land being prepared for that, I'd say.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. So we are working to remove the trees and prepare for development. Mr. Ugaldi met with the Plan Commission and met with the NRCS office out on East 18 and believed that a permit was not necessary to demolish trees. And generally that would be the case. However, when it's for preparation for a future development, a permit would be required. So we've been in lengthy discussions with IDEM, Office of Stormwater Quality, and IDEM, Office of Air Quality, and we are complying with all of those provisions. And we are preparing documents for compliance. We specifically asked whether or not a stop work order was placed on the property by either the locals or by the state, and that was not done. We are in constant contact and communication with both IDEM and the area plan office to make sure that air and water quality remains within normal limits and acceptable to state code and local regulations.
So no stop order was required. You're able
That's
to
correct.
continue, you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we specifically asked about that to make sure that we were well within the limits of state law and local ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
So you have passed IDEM?
We don't have a permit from them yet, no. We are in the process of getting a permit from the Office of Stormwater Quality. Typically, that would be twofold. One for the demolition portion and one for the future development. We don't yet know when the development would occur or if it would occur. If this is voted down, then we would not be able to do any development on this property. So we are going through the tree clearing permit process right now with IDEM and have been in contact with Reed Harris with the Office of Stormwater Quality. So we are submitting a permit request for that.
Are they requesting a plan of construction? That's a very challenging piece of property out there.
Correct. Yes, you are correct. No, they are not requiring that since it is for demolition only. When the proposed development that would occur, if again, this petition would be approved, then we would have to go through a large range of development requirements with the area plan office to comply with that request before we can even submit to IDEM. So there's several steps that we would have to go through before we can get to a development plan or ILP permit that then will also be filed with IDEM. So right now, the permit we're in the process of obtaining is just for tree clearing for the demolition phase only.
So are we a hurdle for you to move forward?
To a certain extent, you absolutely are. This project will not move forward without your blessing or your recommendation to the commissioners and ultimately a rezoning amendment approved by the commissioners. The property itself cannot be developed as a restaurant and event center without that.
Mr. President,
Yes.
he has presented what he would like. Probably appropriate we give up to 25 minutes for someone to, and then he can rebut, and then we can have this kind of discussion.
Jim, you got a question, please?
Well, there's a concern about the additional water discharge right to that business to the southwest. You know, there's a pipe underneath the railroad. If it would go down there and not be able to handle it and run over the railroad, it could cause damage to the railroad. We don't know how much hard surface is going to be and, kind of reservoir. We're going to need some kind of detention there at the bottom of the hill.
Correct.
To reassure the business on the southwest side of the track that they're not going to get flooded.
Correct. Yeah, and all of that would be presented within a development plan that would obviously go before the drainage board and all be part of the submittal to area plan office. So that would be ultimately step 2. We're at step 1 right now for the zoning, but yes, everything Mr. Todd said is accurate and all of those documents would be applied for. And if we're not in compliance at that point, we still would not be able to move forward.
Okay.
Multiple levels of authority and jurisdiction here for this project.
But with the parking lot and the roofs and all, you're going to have a pretty good retention pond at the bottom that's going to be able to hold some water back. Right?
Correct.
You're planning on that?
Absolutely. Yes.
All right, you will be given 10 minutes after we hear if there's any opposition.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone like to speak in opposition to this petition? Thank you. Please sign your name.
Good evening. My name is Richard Trujillo. So by rezoning this parcel from residential to business to allow the proposed development of a Mexican restaurant event center will be detrimental to this area. I own 1920 North Meridian Street, Marion, Indiana, which is directly across the street from this site. I also own 504 East Charles Road, Marion, Indiana, which is around the corner from this site. Fernando Ugalde recently purchased this 12.99 acre property, which was heavily wooded and unnecessarily removed and burned all the trees with no regard to any of his neighbors, wildlife, air quality, stormwater, and erosion. Not once did Fernando contact any of his neighbors to discuss his plan or attempt to work with us on his ideas. In his reckless decision to destroy this land, prior to obtaining the proper zoning and permits under the assumption that he may do as he wants, resulted in hurting our property value, diminishing us from any privacy we had from passing motorists and from the sewer plant, and we no longer have any noise barrier from the highway. With a Mexican restaurant and event center, which Fernando told me that he would also operate as an under 21 club, would be unfavorable to the neighborhood. With this combination, you bring in bright lights, loud music, going until late hours, disorderly and disruptive intoxicated customers, and increased crime in the area. There is a well-established gun store immediately to the south of this property. The thought of an under 21 club being this close to a gun store is very undiscerning. Our homes also would be facing the back of this building where there's a sight and noise from the dumpsters. As far as the wildlife, they have been displaced because of Fernando's destruction and constant burning. If this property is transformed into a business, the wildlife could get trapped on the highway trying to travel back and forth from the river, causing more danger to motorists who travel on Huntington Road. The air quality is, because of the constant burning with no permits, as he is still doing, is hurting the air quality and giving neighbors headaches. No one can enjoy being outside at this time. This has been going on for over a month. The Indiana Department of Environmental Management, IDEM, has referred this to the IDEM OAQ for open burning of land clearing. So going on to erosion and stormwater, going back to my property on 504 East Charles Road, this is a 20-acre that I own with a home and 2 barns. The creek that runs through Fernando's property cuts through my property directly and passes by my house and 2 barns. And he has disturbed the creek on his property by removing the trees and stumps from around it. This is very steep on his property, and once erosion begins, the stormwater from the creek will fill in, and my barns and house will be susceptible to flooding. IDEM advised that the land clearing required permit coverage, in this case, a stormwater pollution prevention plan, SWP3, must be developed. The project has also been referred to the IDEM wetlands section. Okay, on to failures. Fernando previously owned another restaurant locally in Marion years ago. He had abruptly closed his doors and went out of business. Nothing is comforting about this, and there is nothing that he has done that would make us believe that he could successfully run another restaurant in such a rural area when he couldn't see off the bypass. When I expressed this concern to Fernando, that this was a bad location and the business wouldn't survive here, he just shrugged his shoulders at me and said that he would just walk away from it if he wouldn't succeed. And Marion has so many vacant buildings, we don't need another one that is likely to follow suit. Fernando has proven that he does not follow the rules and laws, and he does as he chooses. He failed to keep a similar business afloat in a more populated part of Marion. He failed to obtain any permits from IDEM. He failed to rezone this property before destroying it, and he failed to be a good neighbor.
We'd like to keep order, please. Anyone else in opposition? You have about 15 minutes. Anyone else like to speak? Please come to the podium, state your name.
My name is Vonda Hansen. I live on Harold Road off of the area that they're talking about. We've lived there for 25 years. We have a nice neighborhood. I agree with everything that he just said. I think it's very ironic that we already are tearing the place apart when we don't even have the proper permits. But another big concern I have regarding this is the traffic. Right now, we have the railroad track. We have the road that goes to the bait shop. We have the turn-in for the golf course right there. We have the top of the hill gas station. We have the road right there for the water treatment plant that goes down the side of the water treatment plant. Right now, it's already a catastrophe up there, in my opinion, and I'm amazed that we have not had more accidents, because there is no curb of any kind for the Hilltop gas station. And I understand a percentage of why, because the trucks pull in there and just park. There's no in or out, so you have people coming up to the road to go onto the highway. Then you have the people from the Hilltop that are trying to go onto the highway. There is no designated entrance or exit anywhere. And then we're gonna add this facility there that's gonna be another problem, especially if they do not facilitate it such that there can be adequate entrance and exit into the highway. I just see it as a major traffic problem. And it's hard enough right now with the hill there, the curve, everything, and we do have a lot of deer that go along there, and multiple times we have deer dead there and accidents happening. And I just think that's one more thing that's gonna add to the problem there. And I'm concerned about that, as well as all the other things. I'll reiterate everything he said. I think this is just not good, and the fact that he's already had restaurants that have failed and everything. Now, I believe in giving people other second chances. I don't have a problem with that. But, the fact that we've already put the cart before the horse, I think says something about this whole issue, in my opinion.
Thank
I
you.
got a question.
Yes.
Where will the entrance be? Maybe Jason probably would know that.
We're gonna place it at the existing driveway entrance.
Off of 9,
Off of State Road 9, but again, we can't, that's a state highway issue.
but it'll have its own.
It will have to, yes.
It won't be up by the gas station.
No.
And it will come off the highway, it won't come off of the water treatment road?
No, ma'am. Are you talking about Meridian?
Yes, which that could alleviate some of the problem.
Right, and we may, again, you want me to step up to the podium?
Not yet.
Let me wait until.
We're gonna hold that, Jim. If you'd hold that, we'll give them the opportunity. We have some more time for opposition. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? About 12 minutes.
My name is Lisa McDermott, and I live at 2221 North Huntington Road. I'm like the gas station, my neighbor and myself. And his property.
You might want to turn the volume up just a little.
His property that he was talking about that he owns, I'm like right in front of his property. So there's a creek that runs behind my property and like right along it. So the water issues and stuff like that was a concern too. Plus, all the burning and everything. I mean, I have been smelling smoke for a month and a half, 2 months. Coming home, trying to sleep at night, it just was like reeking in my house. And I've been there for almost 20 years. I bought the house and bought the land so I could move out of the city and have peace and quiet and have some land and property. And like I said, I've been there 20 years, and I just think that with all the traffic, the noise, it's just not going to be very, private anymore or anything. And my safety concerns about, people getting out of control, with the gun shop being right there, robberies and things, because the gas station has been robbed a couple times, and every time they run through my property or my neighbor's property trying to get away. And I just think there's going to be a lot of issues with safety, with congestion, with traffic. Sometimes, it takes me 10 minutes to get out of my driveway. I have 2 ends to my driveway. off of Huntington Road. And they plow me in, of course, in the wintertime. But, yeah, I have a hard time getting out of my driveway. And there's a bunch of us around there that all leave for work at the same time in the morning. We get up early in the morning, and we're usually all gone by 5:30. So, you know, we get up really early. And so, you know, with noise and hours, and I just have a major concern with the whole thing.
Thank you. All right, we've got about 9 minutes. Anyone else? State your name, please.
My name is Lee Smith, and I own the property directly across the street where he's planning to build. Just a couple things I wanted to point out is I did look at the petition for the appeal for the change for the zoning. And one of the things I noticed in there in terms of the description of residential suburban, it talked about basically what would be appropriate for that. It talked about, you know, okay, forest. Also talked about irregular terrain. I'm thinking, well, that described it, but it described it before they took all the trees down. I mean, it's, I understand it's like private property. A homeowner should have a right to take all their trees down. It just seems to me it's like the trees are gone, the terrain. I think there has been at least a little work there, moving some dirt. I've also built a subdivision at one time in my life, and we had to abide by all the rules in terms of all the barricades for erosion and everything, and I've seen none of that. And I've got a lot of property. I have a brush pile I burn from time to time, probably once a year, and it's done within probably 8 hours. Not basically a continuous burn like we've had here. And the other thing I guess I'd point out too is that there's a description in terms of why there should be general business being surrounded by businesses. I guess I'd point out again, this property is classified as agricultural, general farming. My property directly across the street, the entire frontage of mine, there is classified as agricultural, general farming. So it's not like it's an island by itself there. In terms of the residences, I should say the businesses you deliver to, in terms of Riverside Sporting Goods, my understanding is there's a residence there as well. If you go to the miniature golf course across the street, there's a residence there as well. So it's not like it's surrounded by businesses and this is kind of a mistake or you know, change there. So that's one thing I just wanted to point out and get a better feel of. There is more than just business around there. You come up with a few isolated businesses and neglecting all the people that live on Meridian Street as well. And my property across the street, we bought that probably 24 years ago. And it took me over 10 years before we finally built a house back there. And I did it basically because we wanted seclusion, we wanted the rural setting and not business across the street. But the other thing I guess I would ask too is that if this motion happens to pass, and it does go to general business, then my understanding again is that, okay, you have general business. I first heard a restaurant, thinking, well, okay. But then I heard an event center, and then I heard you know, under 21 Club. When I went to area plan and asked them, they said, oh yeah, it's a restaurant and it's going to be a youth center. Well, to me, a youth center is a lot different than my impression of what a under 21 Club is. And I guess my question is, if that's going to be what you're planning to do, and if it gets past this body and that comes to fruition, what are the plans in terms of lighting? What are the plans for security? What are you planning to sell? How are you going to make money through this? And the other question is, I guess, in terms of hours, music, what are you modeling this after? If there's a particular club in another town that you're modeling it after, you know, how much homework has been done? How much trouble have they had? Is it a problem in terms of police, you know, multiple calls? And I just haven't heard enough. And it's been, I guess I didn't really know what was happening until basically I got a notice from the area plan. And I just think if this is something that this body is considering in terms of passing tonight, my recommendation would be that it gets passed at least 200 hearings so there can be more of these questions answered. So,
Thank you. Okay, we've got about 5 minutes. Anyone else speak in opposition?
How you doing? I'm Richard. I live down the road, right on North Huntington Road. And I go by there every day. I'm a truck driver. So I kind of know some traffic. And lady over there, she's right. It's going to be a nightmare. We barrel through there 45 miles an hour. And you're going to get traffic jams. It's right there. Not everybody can stop right there. And the other guy said, well, that's a state problem. It's a state problem. Not a state problem. You should put a building right there. You're causing the havoc. You're putting all that stuff right there, right in the way. So when something happens there, it should sue business. Why are we here? I don't know. He's already made up his mind. He already demolished everything. Why did he do that? He already knows what he's going to do. Why are we here? I don't understand how you guys can give someone who has all this power and everything or something is going on. Hey, you can have whatever you want. He just demolished everything illegally. Yeah. Oh, sure, you can have it. We're going to give him a bonus for that? Makes no sense. He does whatever he wants to do.
Can I ask him a question?
Sure.
Is there erosion control set up right now to control the mud runoff?
Where?
On the cleared woods. Woods has been cleared. Is there any erosion control to hold the mud back? I haven't looked at it. I don't know.
No.
I don't think so. No. It looks like a nightmare over there. There's so many concerns over this that I'm like, how are we even here?
And what's gonna happen if it doesn't get approved?
I'm sorry. We're going to give you.
Demolished everything.
Without purpose. We've got about 2 more minutes. Would you like to allow her to speak or?
All right, go ahead.
No, that's,
Yeah, no, have that, go ahead.
no, I just wonder if it doesn't get approved, is that gonna sit as an eyesore? Is it gonna sit with the big hole in it with all the tree roots there? Because obviously he didn't get prior approval.
Maybe you should put the plans back.
All right, we're trying to keep some order here.
I just don't understand how someone's allowed to come in here, do what they want, and say, oh, okay, you can have a business. How can we give them approval? That's like saying, you can do whatever you want. Oh, the other money.
Okay, anything else?
No, that's all right.
All right, petitioner, you've got 10 minutes, rebuttal.
Can I say that real quick?
No, I'm sorry, Jerry.
I'll do my best to answer all the questions in the order they were asked. If I forget something, don't hesitate to bring it to my attention. The first gentleman was commenting on, well, several comments on noise, traffic, light, crime, dumpster location. I'll try to summarize all the comments together, make sure I catch them all. Safety and congestion, security, hours. I think that covers most of the first part of my response. We can't develop a plan if this is not approved. There is no plan if this project is denied. So we can't.
I'm sorry, please.
We have
an opportunity. I'm sorry, sir. Thank you.
We have a generalized plan of what the proposed development would be on this property. We are going to address all of those matters as a part of what your ordinance process requires, and that's to go through Area Plan Commission and file all the documents for drainage approval to the drainage board, ILP, improvement location permit from area plan, grading, all of these measures that were all talked about. It's all built in within your ordinance. There's multiple layers of review, but you can't start to run until you walk. You have to get this approved, or nothing forward is worth doing. There's no reason to go through a traffic study and spend tens of thousands of dollars to evaluate where a driveway might go, what configuration the driveway would be needed. Turn lanes, passing blisters, the geometry, all of that. It's all something that will be done, but only if this is approved. The ordinance is very clear on the amount of light that can be emitted from this property if the petition is granted. If it's not granted and it's denied, why would we spend money on a photometric plan to evaluate and make sure to document when we submit plans to the area plan office that we're in compliance with what your ordinance requires? Same thing with all the other comments that were made. Specifically as it related to the final comment, I never said that it was a state problem. I said it was under the state jurisdiction. The state highway, NDOT, grants a permit of whether or not we were to place a driveway on State Road 9. All of those provisions would have to be complied with before NDOT would even think about granting a driveway permit. Why would we go through that process if this board tonight and the county commissioners rejects it? I would ask all of you, would you do the same? And I don't think if you were good stewards of your money that you would go through steps B, C, D, and so on until you have A. You have a generalized plan. You know how you're going to handle the questions that were raised, or most of the questions that you were raised. But we can't do that until we have a zoning amendment. I'd also like to point out that the ordinance is very clear. Drainage, traffic, a lot of the other concerns are not to be factored into your decision. Your decision is specifically with those 5 questions that I asked that's in your packet and within the reasonableness test.
You can ask a question.
Okay.
The only reason I asked about the entrance was we've got an event center where when everybody leaves, if they was to leave out Meridian, they're going to shine lights on everybody's house.
Correct.
So, you know, the state road is the best option.
Sure, and I guess I'll add.
That's why I asked that question.
Sure. And they're valid questions. They're all very valid questions. My argument is tonight is not the point to ask those questions. That's all within the purview of
we got to reassure people's minds that this will work. Right?
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely agree, and that's why I'm answering all these questions, because it is important. As a board, you're tasked with considering those 5 questions and all of the comments from the public. So as it relates to the location of driveways, we likely will have a driveway off of Meridian. We will have to buffer and site that in a manner that lights from a vehicle would not be obtrusive to existing residents. So we may have to place that driveway at a property line where lights might not shine into a home. But also, you have to consider safety. There's a distance requirement from Meridian and State Road 9. You can't have it right up against the State Road 9 driveway, or the driveway at State Road 9 location. You have to have it far enough away so that if a vehicle turns off of State Road 9 onto Meridian southbound, that you're not going to cause an accident. Those are all the things that we consider. Again, I would urge you that that's not step A. Step A is what we're here for tonight. I believe that we have discussed and answered all of the questions within the reasonableness test. All the questions that were spoken from the public, they're very valid comments. We will be required to address every single one of those and more, all through the area plan office, but not unless this is approved. So a question regarding, I think Mr. Todd, you asked a question with regards to erosion control measures. Yes, there are erosion control measures in place. You can go out there in the morning. I'll be glad to meet with you or anybody else. You can go out there and you can see them. I have photographs. I provided those to Reed Harris, IDEM, Stormwater Quality Inspector. I provided them to Area Plan Office. Once we were engaged, which was not prior to the tree clearing, it was once some complaints started coming into the state and through area plan office. That's when my office was engaged. We then immediately set up a meeting the next morning with IDEM, Office of Stormwater Quality. The next day, we developed a plan. Within 4 days, erosion control measures were started to be implemented. We've gone through and provided additional information to the Office of Air Quality. We are working with the wetland section. We are working with the Army Corps of Engineers. We've paid several $1,000s for additional studies to evaluate all of the effects of the environment. But again, that's all part of the development process, all of which is for nothing if this zoning amendment is turned down. What will happen if this is turned down? The zoning amendment would not pass. We cannot provide a development that is inconsistent with anything outside of the residential suburban zone. IDEM requires us to place the earth that's exposed into a state that would be considered vegetative. Are they going to require us to plant every single tree back? I can't answer that question. Typically, I would suggest that tree clearing would be allowed if it's not for a development like we're proposing. If this was never talked about, we could simply go in there and cut down every tree on the property. There's no prohibition against that. We're in the county, we can burn it. The only reason we're here dealing with IDEM, Office of Water Quality, and Office of Air Quality is because there's plans for a development. If he disturbs more than an acre, we would have to have a stormwater pollution prevention plan. I'm in the process of preparing that, and I'm coordinating with Area Plan and IDEM, Office of Stormwater Quality. We are taking all necessary steps to show compliance with not only state requirements, but local requirements. I don't know how much time I have left, sir.
You got a minute.
1 minute.
It's going to be important that you allow the commission to ask you some questions.
Absolutely. I'll defer to you now. I want to make sure that I've covered everything I think I have. If not, I'll be glad to answer your questions now.
Commission members, questions for this gentleman?
My biggest concern is the smoke going to other people. I mean, I understand, in the county, you're allowed to, maybe the pollution in general isn't bad, but that's the biggest concern to me. Is that going to end anytime soon?
Yes.
I mean, what kind of timeline can you give these people that the burning will end?
We are working through Office of Air Quality to obtain a permit to dispose of all of that material. And as you can tell, the majority of it's gone. So if that permit is denied, we'll haul off all the debris and eliminate all burning activities completely.
So, but if it passes, you're still going to burn.
Correct. If we get a permit from Office of Air Quality to continue burning, then we would have to identify days in which that burning would be permitted practice.
Okay, and there'd be breaks.
Correct. Absolutely.
Let the neighbors know.
Absolutely.
Because we need to be good neighbors. Even if it's loud, we need to be good neighbors.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
It's my understanding you came into this not from the beginning, but kind of once the process got started, problems were identified, and then you came in maybe, I don't want to use the term rescue, but maybe?
I'll defer to you on that.
Okay.
Good. Another point of information that I think is important, Ryan, what is your recommendation? We normally, at the end of these, ask your recommendation before we start to consider.
Again, with the involvement that I've had, I've been out there, I've talked to Mr. Ugaldi, I've talked to Mr. Miller, they've kept us included. I put it forth as a favorable recommendation just because we're dotting i's across the t's.
It's a favorable. Okay, thank you. All right.
Because right now it's no different than if you're just going to build a house and clearing the property to build a house. I mean, essentially.
Other questions?
I'm not sure if this is a question or comment. You know, in general, I'm in favor of responsible development. Obviously, I appreciate people being willing to invest money in our community and improve things. You heard a lot of comments about your neighbors that don't want this to happen. And another concern I have, and this is maybe just personal, it doesn't really affect what you guys do, other than the fact that I wish you hadn't maybe until we got to this point. You've cleared a lot of stuff off that property, and you had the right to, it's yours. I mean, I'm not saying you don't, but it would have been nice to make sure you got through this stage before it started happening, maybe, kind of thing. So it's just kind of a comment on my mind.
Mine too.
I have to tell you, I'm kind of mixed right now. I'm not sure what we're going to do with this at the end of the day right now, but I've heard enough concern from your neighbors that it gives me concern as I take an action to approve or disapprove on this thing. So what's your feeling, I guess? Obviously, you're going forward if you can. You've heard a lot of opposition from your neighbors tonight. What's your reaction to that?
Are you asking myself or the?
Well, both of you.
So they're asking your reaction to the neighbors' concerns tonight with all of these matters. Do you want to respond to that? So, I mean, obviously, he's engaged me.
You don't care.
Can I make a comment?
He's engaged me on an engineering perspective.
You guys had an opportunity. I'm going to ask the old order here.
I never got a chance. I wanted to say something.
I'm sorry, but we have a certain profile of the public hearing that we go through. We allow so many minutes. That's been honored. So I'm going to ask that you honor our process.
Well, something about this.
Sir?
Yeah. It don't make a lick sense to put in another restaurant and then a place for kids to get together to do their dope and their drinking. And then we that live around there have to put up with that.
Thank you.
YMCA.
Thank you.
And if you're going to maintain the integrity of the commission or the drainage board or anybody, you need to just turn this clear down. Because they jumped into this head first and no permits, no nothing, didn't tell us anything. We need to shoot this down. Let them build a house.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to close this public hearing.
You want me to respond to his question or no?
If you'd like.
So,
Yeah, I know you're from an engineering perspective, but we're involved with more than just engineering with this whole solution.
correct, yeah, and so we're dealing with land use, we're dealing with all of the permitted uses within a specific zoning classification. So, you know, I can speak to the technical, but in discussions with the owner, Mr. Ugoldi, one of the things that he has committed to with hearing all these concerns is adding additional landscape and buffering requirements above and beyond what is required so that we can attempt to meet the requirements of the neighbors. The neighbors don't want it, so we can't meet that unless you guys reject that. But again, my office wasn't contacted until every tree on the property that has been removed was removed. So I can't go back and change things. I can tell you that based on my conversation with Mr. Ugoldi in the area plan office, he did think that he was following the requirements. Once my office was involved, I said, here's the steps that we have to follow, and we followed every single one of them, where IDEM shuts down by now. All of that's public record, you know, the public can get it.
I'll ask this question, and I know what the answer probably is, but I'm going to ask it.
Sure.
You must feel like at this point, there's going to be no refusal of these applications at the state level.
Correct.
Okay, you're
correct. Yes, we've had several discussions with them from a stormwater quality perspective. That's one of my areas of specialty. Office of Air Quality, wetlands. I'm not a wetlands specialist, but we did engage what I would consider is the state's expert in wetlands. They gave us a report. We are working through the wetland section, air quality and stormwater quality. You know, again, everything that is required for this development to occur, we are following through with, or I promise you, IDEM would have shut us down by now.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Jim.
In the event of heavy rain, though, you've got the silt stuff up where you're going to stop the ash runoff and the mud runoff, right? And keep it from running through the railroad onto the business to the southwest.
Correct. We have several check dams on site. You can go, we can see that. I've provided aerial photographs.
I haven't looked at the site. That's what worries me.
Yeah. So we do have that. They are installed. They are monitored weekly. I've been there 3 times.
It wasn't in our package, so we didn't know.
Yeah, it was submitted through correspondence both to IDEM and area plan office. So we are complying with IDEM requirements for stormwater. And again, it's going to be a lot bigger plan once we go through and we know what the development's going to be.
You guys have an idea about the size. What's a general size that you guys are looking to do? Because I'm sure that's concern.
So as it sits,
Well, I mean, he wants to offer, he doesn't have to offer that information.
yes, I don't mind, it's
I'm
tentative.
just curious, I mean, because
Sure.
that makes a big, and I'm sure.
Right.
a lot of people do.
Yeah, and it's
But
tentative.
general, and most of
Right, and so generally, 135 feet wide by 65-foot wide building. So, yeah,
135 long by 65.
135 foot long, 65 foot wide. So, what, 10,000 square feet, the numbers.
Something close to that. Maybe just under that, but somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's not a massive building where we're gonna build Lucas Oil Stadium. It's consistent with that area.
It's just nice to be able to
Sure.
and see what you're
Right.
on that property.
And that's what the architectural team has started with. Again.
How much leveling of that site are you gonna have to do to get this building on there?
The building will be located approximately where the old home was, so in that area, it will be relatively level. We will have some in-depth grading that will be required to be done. Not in any way concerned that we would not meet all provisions of the requirements. We do not expect any variances. So we're gonna comply with all of those provisions.
Why clear the whole property?
I can't answer that question, sorry, I was brought in afterwards.
Okay, we are going to close the public hearing unless the commission members have other comments or questions to make. To Mr. Miller?
Who are proponents for allowed to speak, or just people who are against this?
Sir, I'll tell you what.
Actual business?
Okay, would you sit down for a minute, please? Thank you. We're gonna let you go.
Thank you.
So the commission chooses to extend my little cheat sheet here, and we would allow other comments. I'm gonna let you guys tell me if that's what you would like to do. Would you like to hear additional?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Anybody opposed to hearing additional comments? Clayton,
He talked me out there, I'm good.
Okay, all right, so we'll go for another 10 minutes. Please keep order. Respect will get you further than anything here tonight.
One quick question.
Okay, Jerry? Okay.
All this work started, has been going on. Why wasn't a stop work order put on it to stop it until it was taken care of properly?
Yeah.
Why is it just continued on and on and on?
Okay.
I got a stop order for a fence.
Thank you.
That I was legal.
Can I answer that, Randy?
If you choose, yes.
Because under my understanding, that'd be under IDEM's jurisdiction, not the jurisdiction of this office. I mean,
County property, that involved in the
and
state.
there's no county ordinance about burning trees on your property, Jerry. I'm sorry.
Okay, state your name, please.
My name is Jody Salvatore, and first and foremost, I'd like to apologize for interrupting rudely. I just wanted to, give another side to this kind of predicament. So I actually own a small business myself on State Road 9. That's catty corner from the property that Mr. Ugaldi built. I've never once had any form of traffic incidents or anything like that, and it's literally catty corner. My property is actually on top of the hill versus his is down, so visibility is even better for his property than mine. I would also like to say that I think everybody in this room alongside Mr. Ugaldi had the same opportunity to purchase the property and do with it as they please. I think he's been nothing but respectful to the people he spoke with, myself included. So where they are saying he's been basically disregarding their concerns, I feel like that's rather false. I think also being a member of the youth, which seems to be very unrepresented in this room, I think it would be beneficial for the city to have another youth center. So an event center, if we could go somewhere that is public, safe, and where we're allowed to actually have some fun, that'd be awesome. Versus most people my age, about 25, most people are seeking, they do things that are not legal. Versus if he puts in an under 21 club, everybody said, people, underage drinking. Well, that would be them breaking the law, not Mr. Ugaldi. So, if he's not serving minors, that's not his responsibility. His responsibility is to provide a safe place for the youth. So if it is 21 and under, for 21 and under to conduct themselves as 21 and under, it's not his job to, sit here and be like, well, these people, these 21-year-olds, if he's not serving people who are under 21, then he's abiding by the law. So therefore, these hypothetical situations seem to be rather hypocritical. So I just wanted to actually be one of the few people, it sounds like, who's in support of him. And I just kind of wanted to voice that, especially being so close to his property. I would also like to thank him for eliminating the eyesore of all those woods and the abandoned house that nobody else here seems to want to purchase. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you.
Thank you, Jody. 5 minutes. Anyone else?
Todd Lindsay, Fairmount. I didn't know about this issue until tonight, and just standing back and really trying to absorb it all is from what a business perspective. You look at this from a business perspective, that before I would put money into a piece of property and then spend the money to have the trees and so on taken down, I would have had businesses before. This gentleman had businesses before. He would have started at point A and getting this permit and the zoning correct before even purchasing it, right? Just put that to content on what is he going to do next? Oh, we're going to do this. Oh, we're going to do that. We're going to follow the book from here on out. He knew the book was there to begin with to follow. That's my point.
Thank you, Todd. Okay. Anyone else?
I'm just curious, what's the seating capacity expected? I heard her ask the size of the building. Is it this way? Is it going this way too?
I'll leave Mr. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Carol. I also live with my parents on that State Road 9. I'm a bus driver, so I go down there quite a bit, and it is very hard as it is to do that. And we drop off at all the youth centers as it is. I'm going to say, as a bus driver, it's very hard to go on 9 as it is. Adding another youth center would make that a whole lot harder on 9 because we have to stop on the roads. We can't just go in there and all this other stuff. So if that's another youth center that they're thinking about dropping off kids as a bus, that's not going to be safe at all.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're going to close the extension to the public hearing at this time. So Ryan, the commission's move would be to make a favorable recommendation or a unfavorable recommendation on this. I'm sorry? Or no recommendation. Okay. Favorable, unfavorable, or no? Those are three options. Okay? So, and then if it is passed, it would go to the commissioners for their approval, since this is not inside the city limits. Okay. Is this close to the city limits?
Yes.
This location?
It waters the wastewater treatment plant.
Is there a reason why you guys? Is there a reason why you guys didn't ask for it to be annexed into the city?
We're in the county right now, so the goal would be to remain consistent with the county jurisdiction. So we've not had any process started to annex into the city now.
Okay.
The dotted line's right at the south of the property district.
Okay. That'd be the sewage treatment plant, right?
I think to annex, you need a certain number of houses. I don't think you can just have one or two things annexed at a time. I think you need a group, don't you? Last time
I don't know.
We used
You did,
it out after the fact. Yeah.
How long ago?
Okay, I need to find that
I
section.
mean, it's been many years, but I'm just saying.
So if they chose to annex with whatever, let's say that this is turned down, and they chose to annex, that takes it out of our jurisdiction, correct?
Right.
Okay.
I guess I make a comment on that. Regardless of where it's county or city, it's right or wrong for us, regardless of that. So that's my thought. I have no problem with it remaining in the county, personally.
Any other discussion, commission members, before we act?
I think it's clear he could have been a better neighbor. I don't think it's probably appropriate that he burned all the trees, especially if it's all through the night for several months. Unfortunately, that's not what we're voting on. We're voting on zoning, and the trees are going to be burnt, and items letting him burn the trees, you're allowed to burn. So I understand the traffic concerns, but they have to get it approved by State Route 9 that's in Meridian Street. I don't see how I can vote in favor of this, despite my personal issues with it.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I make a motion for an unfavorable recommendation.
We have a motion on the floor by Dr. Bothwell's, an unfavorable recommendation. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
A second from Mr. Cottle? Okay, roll call vote?
Bothwell,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
McWhirter.
I was hoping we'd have a chance for a question or comment before we started voting, but.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We jumped right in. Can we do that still or not?
Without objection, we can do anything with an objection.
Is there an objection to,
No, I'm going to make a
Mr. Blickfield, you gotta guide me. We're in it, aren't we?
Yes, I honestly, I don't know the answer.
All right.
to that. It's your
Bell's
discretion.
already ringing.
We're gonna need your response, Mr. McWhirter, your vote here.
Yeah, I'm going to say no at this point because of some concern questions I have. I'll say no to the motion.
Okay, you may get an opportunity here again, but we'll see how it rolls. All right? I'm sorry, Katie?
You're good. Knuckles,
No.
Pearson,
Yes.
Poland,
This is for unfavorable, right? I'm saying
Yes,
yes
please-
or no.
please
Can you
clear
do
that
this
up.
again?
okay. Richmond,
Yes.
Schultz,
No.
Todd,
Yes.
I got 7 for yes.
Motion passes. So that's been denied.
So it does go to the commissioners with unfavorable, or it dies here?
It goes to commissioners with an unfavorable recommendation.
Can I comment now at this point as the vote's over? In general sense, I tend to toward unfavorable, but I'm not to that point yet because I feel like we need more time to consider the neighbors' concerns. We've heard a lot of comments against, a couple for, and I just felt like this is the first time I've heard this is tonight. And it's a pretty important decision, I think, how we want to give that. And I really felt like I need more time to reflect on those pros and cons. That's why I was in that quandary, I guess. So.
Welcome to the APC.
We need more time to consider that. I think it's an important enough decision. We need to have more time to think about.
All right.
Thank you.
So we're gonna move on. Okay, for the sake of time, Ryan, we've got some new members. I'm gonna bounce back up to old business rules and procedures. I just want you to simply give a brief overview of where we've been with rules and procedures. I'm not gonna tackle any of that tonight because we don't have enough time. But we've got some new folks. You can start with the process that we went through. You were looking, and I was part of that. Who else was part of that? Was I the only one? Oh, Bob. No, you weren't with the, okay. Yes, you were part of that. I guess I'm talking about my involvement in it when we met as a committee and we took a look at 3 different, we took a look at the old, we took the look at what Dr. Bothwell had been part of with that committee, and then we took a look at what's been proposed, right? We had some discussion. Go ahead, I'm gonna let you do it.
Well, and you guys have this, so you kind of have a timeline of the rules committee update from 7/12. We had another update. So basically what this is we started this back in November 2021 to get through the rules of procedure because we knew we were kind of outside the code. So original workbook we put together had basically our rules of procedure, Indiana Code, and Indiana Planning Association's interpretations. At this point, we've had Bothwell Rules Committee has went through it. We had a second Rules Committee go through it. We incorporated 75% of what Dr. Bothwell's group had listed. With the next Rules Committee, and we presented that. The Rules Committee met 12/18/2023. for a special rules of procedure meeting. We presented to the Area Planning Commission on January 8th, 2024. Much of which we went through and discussed and voted on at that point. We had some additional questions asked on January 26, 2024. I went through and answered the best I could the questions that Randy had given me. Bring back that I did that on February 21st, 2024. So now we are setting and waiting to get to the end of the rules of procedure. The important thing with this is as we change, the rules of procedure are yours. So you guys vote on it and they are yours. Where these change the area-wide zoning ordinance is a change in law. So when we get this done, we have to go from this to look into the area-wide zoning ordinance and actually make changes to the area-wide zoning ordinance.
Based on these rules and procedures?
Based on Indiana code.
Okay.
So we're getting in line with Indiana code here, but changes here, we have to find out what it changes in our ordinance. That comes back here for discussion for an ordinance change, and then again is put forth with a recommendation to the legislative body, to all the legislative bodies actually, to make those changes in the area. So again, after we complete this, then on our end of it, the whole other journey starts. And that's for those town board members. We have to travel what changes we make. If we come in here and if we do it chapter by chapter, then we bring it to you guys chapter by chapter.
So some of the concerns have been whether the Indiana code was stated specifically in the rules or whether it was referenced in the rules. And that's what I tried to intensely do, was to try and follow up to make sure that, and that's what generated my questions, is it actually verbatim to the Indiana code, or is it just a reference to the Indiana code? And that's a challenge, you know, to come up with that, and that's what generated the questions that I have in red. The other concerns that I had personally was it appeared that, you know, the executive director was taking on some responsibilities that as a collaborative leader, I wasn't the most comfortable with him just doing that, hoping that we could involve commission members in order to give support based on what those decisions were that were being made. So that generated some of the questions that are in red. There was a situation where it was based on Dr. Bothwell's experiences in the past as the president and member of the APC, that there are times in which the APC becomes the final act in something versus only recommending, you know, to the executive or the commissioners. So we tried to get a piece of that added, and that's in the back. Is that correct, Ryan? When we talk about when...
That is you're talking CAFOs.
I'm talking CAFOs and subdivisions fall into that category.
So CAFOs send information, Dr. Popper went specifically, also sent it to David. We talked about it 2 meetings ago, didn't we? In the meeting? I don't know.
Specifically what?
On CAFOs.
My recollection is you said that basically none of it applies because of the state overriding it.
That's what I said to you.
Regulated by IDEM, correct?
My research found that, and I actually talked to the head of the state and stuff. Most of it is the state that does public hearings, the approval of the plan. And that's where, in talking to him, I wanted to get it through David, to get it to you guys as far as what is our part in CAFOs at this point. I mean, it even goes to saying that if you want to speak, you've got 33 days to send a letter to the head of the state. So it's not like we're here on the podium, according to Indiana code, you have to request to have a public meeting.
So I'm going to ask that, since we've got some new folks, I'm going to ask that, you guys take a peek at this. We're going to get this behind us sometime. I don't know that it's going to be tonight because it's almost 9 o'clock. And we've got some other things we need to take care of. Bob, real brief, please.
Can I be just as brief as you guys were?
Well,
We want to go home before midnight.
For the new members in particular, this has been an ongoing saga for a number of years. And what has been presented here tonight is the latest page. And you guys really don't know. I would like, Ryan, if you would, Katie, whoever it is that does this, Brenda, I would guess. I don't think anybody here knows what rules and regulations that we've been under for the last 20 years. I don't think you've seen it. I know Clayton hasn't because of the comments I saw. Clayton thinks that he's had some ideas about, what you are presenting as those are not the rules that we're under. I would like for everybody to see a copy in your next packet, please, of what the actual rules and regulations are that we've been under ever since I've been here, which is last 15 years. What has transpired from that was because of issues that came up with the CAFO, the last one that we had. And if we're not responsible for CAFOs, and I know Mr. McCourt was here when we were going through the last one, maybe we did something wrong, and decisions that we've made in the past with CAFOs, we didn't have a right to make them. Does that mean that it's invalid and those people have the right to come? Guys, we've got to sit down and look at this. The rules and regulations, we needed two things done. And when I stepped down from the presidency, I asked Mr. Breedy, who was the incoming president, to look at those two things. That there was no provision for us to move to a second hearing on CAFOs and/or subdivisions without prejudice. We had to approve, deny, or conditionally approve. It got us sued twice. And that was the only
apply now, right? Does that
I asked at that time for us to have those rules and regulations looked at, added to, etc. There was no action taken for 2 years. At the end of that 2-year period, Mr. Breedy asked for a review of rules and regulations to address those two items and perhaps others. He asked for a committee. I volunteered. The immediate president that followed Mr. Breedy, Rex Maynard, he volunteered at the time. And Mrs. Jones, who is currently on the BZA, volunteered. We looked at it and we spent several months, about almost 12 months, meeting about 4 different times, looking over the rules that we have that we're currently under. We came back ready to present and we were not allowed to present. And now it was my understanding at that time, I don't know this, but I think that Ryan had during that time, he also had some questions and he developed some things that he thought ought to be done, but that had never surfaced. I continue to resist the fact that we're not allowed to, we are a legitimately put together committee from the APC to sit down and to do this. We have our results. Can we at least present them?
What are you asking for, Bob?
Okay, so the consequence of this is that 6 months ago or so, I got permission from the APC to present. And I said at that time, great, before we do this, I'll sit down with Ryan and see if he has anything that he would like to add. 2 weeks after I said that, Mr. Malott sent out a request by email I, being Mr. Mott, I am establishing a committee to review rules and regulations. Okay? And there were people that said within 5 minutes, there were 2 people, one from the Upland area, one from the Fairmount area, that said, yeah, I'll be on that committee. And apparently later, Mr. Atkins joined that committee. In the email that was sent out, that these two people from Upland, from Fairmount, and Mr. Atkins set out, good, at that time you weren't involved. Good, we'll sit down with Bothwell, assuming that I'm going to be I'm already part of the committee. And so I didn't respond. I was never invited. I get a telephone call from Randy. Randy is saying that he's going to be a part of the committee. And what do I think? I haven't been invited. I was never invited by anybody who had authority to invite me to it. And at this point in time, the committee that was constituted, there was the person from Fairmount, the person from Upland, the person that was president of the group at that time, and Mr. Malott, and you. Those other 3, they're no longer here, but we're still hanging on to not allowing this thing to be done in an appropriate manner. Guys, you need to have the entire facts before you look at the thing and see whether or not we want to go, which way we want to go.
What are you asking
so
for, Bob?
Please get the rules out. I want the rules out. I want everybody to be able to see the rules that we're under now. Then I want to be able to present what our committee had looked at and what we had done. And then compare that to what your committee has done to see if not, I don't know why we are going from 7 or 8 pages to 20 pages.
We didn't gain that many pages.
Whatever it happens to.
Like 5, how many pages did we gain?
That's not the point. I don't understand why we haven't been able to present the work that we had to do, why we spent 18 months and not allowed to present that, and other people to demand what work did you do, and to say, well, without explanation, anyway.
For the sake of time, or do you want to make a motion?
To present, I want everybody else to have documentation of what's been done. I think they need to have the rules as they are now. They need to see the work that our committee did, and they need to see then the work that you guys are presenting. And then they have an opportunity to say, why do we do this? Or, hey, these are good ideas.
Would you like to put that in the form of a motion? Just so we can have some distinction here on what it is.
I so move. I want an opportunity to discuss this.
Okay, in a meeting?
Yeah, in a meeting.
You want a special meeting, or you want to try and pull it in one of the regular meetings?
I want these people to have all the information before we have an opportunity to further this discussion. This is not an easy discussion.
Anybody opposed to that? Maybe we won't take a roll call. We'll just, anybody opposed? Any comments? Okay. So Bob, what I would ask you to do is to get with Ryan and, propose to him what documents that you want us to review. And if we need to, there was I think the original document had, did you have the notes of what they put together on top of the old, on top of the new?
We had originally what Kyle had given us, and you said that wasn't it. So then you had given the other page and a half, you had given out, and then I got a copy of that we included with our rules.
Okay, would you be willing to look at that, Bob, with Ryan and see that your stuff is in there? Huh?
I asked to do that, and he ignored that and set up the committee.
But we're going to start over.
That involved you and
other people. I've been willing to do that. We're going to do this again with you guys. I'll start over the rules and procedures, but we're going to start over this process. Okay? I'm going through it. Okay.
As a new member, I say it's a good idea. Let's get, I have the originals, Dr. Bothwell's, and I got yours then. So it'd be good to have all 3 so we can just kind of look at it.
Can we do that? Thank you. All right, we're moving on. Okay, so it's been proposed that we consider an organizational structure. This is an updated one. It was a very rough one you got in your packet. So please take a look at this. Any quick comments about it? What you might want to do, Ryan, you don't have a copy, but you probably need to fill it in however you would like that. I got it. I'm new, you know. Let's try that one. If any of this down here doesn't fit, let us know. The big debate with this one is, do we include the BZA up there on the top line with us? Or do we leave them alone? And it may be that it would be recommended that they create their own if they're willing to do that. So with that being said, let's just work with this one, see if we can get something done. Any comments or questions about this?
This is a reaffirmation of what we've lived with for ever since I've been here.
Right at bottom line, would that define your staff as it is today? Or how would you like to?
Well, I mean, our enforcement clerical assistant is actually the code enforcement secretary. But she's only the code enforcement secretary because we couldn't call her an executive secretary.
Okay, here's what I'm going to ask you guys to do. Write that bottom line how you want. I think the top is not up for negotiation, but you kind of label your staff as you would like to do that.
This is fine. I mean, it's fine.
Okay.
I would say my administrative assistant would step up. And she's got she would have the office in my absence.
Okay.
So probably give executive director, administrative assistant, and then.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to let you guys talk about how you would like this structured, and we'll come back to the next meeting with that, if this is something you think you can work with. Sure. Okay. All right, we're going to get something done. Solar committee. We did advertise for a solar committee to review or create a application, and we had one resident community member. And at the last meeting, we talked about myself, Mr. Hartman, Mr. Bothwell, Ryan, and Todd Glancy. Todd, are you still good with that?
Absolutely.
So I need a motion for that committee to be approved by the commission.
I move to approve that committee.
All right. Motion by Mr. Schultz, second by Mrs. Pullen.
This is the solar application, right?
Yes, solar
Okay,
application
thank you.
committee.
Okay,
And we're
Bothwell?
Yes.
Are you good? Maureen? Cordell?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
McWhirter?
Yes.
Nichols? Oh,
Just say yes or no.
so we want Hopeman?
Solar application committee, we have one application. Do you approve the board members and the one?
Oh, the one we already talked about before.
Yeah, Todd Glancy was the only community resident that expressed an interest. So it would be Todd, myself, Ed, Bob, Ryan.
And yes.
Yes.
Rude. Hash that out.
Pearson?
Yes.
Pullen?
Yes.
Richmond?
Yes.
Schultz?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, motion passes. All right, we are going to table terms of probation. We're not going to do that tonight. I'd like to visit with Mr. Glickfield before that document is actually approved or presented. So with that being said, I got scribbles all over my agenda. Is there anything that we haven't? Oh, we got to give Mr. Glickfield and Ryan an opportunity because I want to hear about the comprehensive plan. Any comments, David?
Very quickly, the CAFO stuff is also in our packet, and I checked the statutes to make sure they're still current. Looks like we're out of that process. So I won't say anything else about that. A couple things that we did in the BZA, I didn't know if you wanted to go ahead and have this board approve, one being the permit report being included in the packets. I didn't know if you wanted a motion that that's also done here.
Yes. That's going to be a meeting report. I don't know where.
I don't know if we got it back. Well, what the report does, it's a report we use in Gas City, and it lists the applicant, it lists many factors so we can track the building. So you also have the building permit information on a monthly basis. You can see the cost, the permit fee, the cost of the proposed development, that sort of information. It's just good information for you guys to have.
And the BZA approved it?
The BZA wanted it.
Yes. So.
Yeah, we do it anyway.
Okay.
We have an Excel form that's where I get my established construction. Each permit we do, we keep it running, so it's easy enough.
So for the sake of time, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that one passes. Anything else, David?
No, I'll bring up the other issue at the next meeting. I'm drawing a blank on what it is right now.
Okay.
Unless you remember. The second thing we talked about, we approved, I thought it might be good for this. Oh, it was about, we talked about it was more for an APC issue than be the fine and the, the application. I didn't know, but I thought maybe this board should also approve that in the application process. What happened is in the BZA, it comes up where there's potential conflict between contractor and owner as far as information that is put in the permit process, which can make things difficult sometimes for the owner. There's actually a fine schedule for that. So the question becomes, do they get notice of that? Does the owner get notice of that? Does the contractor get notice of that? So the BZA asked, and I think it's very wise, that number one, we put in the application that the owner and the contractor are aware of the fee schedule for the permitting process and the fine schedule, and that, this stuff's got to be followed. It appears that in the past, it has not always been followed, so it's created some confusion. The BZA, who enforces this, thought it was very important that from this day forward, we follow what the rules say, which generally is a good idea. So I didn't know if you wanted also, I thought maybe this board should actually put that into effect too by form of a motion.
In a nutshell, we've got a contractor allowing a landowner to believe that everything's been taken care of with all permitting necessary, drawings submitted, and then we find out that no, that isn't what happened. The landowner is now on the fire, so to speak, because we did an inspection and it didn't pass everything, so we're trying to try and connect the two to create some accountability between the contractor and the landowner. All those in favor say aye. Oh, Jim.
I just said I'm aye.
Aye. All right, any opposed? All right, we got that done.
That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Ryan.
To follow up on that, I would also ask that, right now we don't really have a finding system in place. That's something to kind of begin to think about. Are we sending them a letter? Are we going to have tickets? Are we going to have, we talked about, we had 110.
Yeah.
110 expired. So
102.
102.
Why don't you and I chat about that? We'll bring a proposal back to you.
Yeah, that's what I want some help with that on how we.
I can help you with that.
Implement that. This is all just real quick. We haven't seen anything on there. Nothing's got posted yet. Just so everyone's aware.
Now, I will say that Ryan and I screened out some applicants for the building inspector's position. It's going to rain, and I'm going to get back with him, and we're going to talk about that. There are a couple candidates out there that I think have potential, but I want to make sure that Ryan and I have the opportunity to bring them in and talk to them first. And then we're going to go before the county council on the 15th. Are you going to share that? Me too.
We talked about it.
You guys know we're going to go and ask for contracted services to kind of catch up on inspections, correct? At the county council, we're going to ask for $20,000 budget so we can catch up on inspections. Okay.
And I just wanted to ask you guys real quick, so this doesn't become an issue. Are you guys aware our mobile home standard? Our ordinance, it says the definition of it is any mobile home is considered anything built before June 15th, 1976. Beyond that time, it's considered a manufactured home. I believe in a lot of our towns, we have not let manufactured homes come in thinking that they are mobile homes. Are we aware of the difference? Because our ordinance says mobile, 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 mobile. It says nothing about manufactured. We had a case, I got a phone call from one of the towns, and we started to read it, and I thought, well, everything says mobile, which means I can bring a manufactured home and put it anywhere in town and be within the ordinance.
Do you want to discuss that with the towns and see where they're at with that?
Yeah,
And then just do whatever changes we need to make?
I thought I'm gonna print it off today so I don't forget, because I don't think that we are fully aware of what this ordinance says.
Okay.
So I just, especially the council people.
That ordinance goes back to when, Ryan? When is that?
I believe all the way back to it was passed 3/13/2000.
So it was passed in 2000, well after this change in definition occurred or whatever, okay.
I don't know if we are figuring out that those, I think everyone's looking at that as one and the same when they are not in our ordinance.
What we can do with that? Comprehensive plan?
Comprehensive plan was signed today by the commissioners. They also agreed to pay Mike Kleinpeter for his work. So now the next step is to get in contact with TSW. They've sent us some stuff. We're looking for, we sent some stuff to GIS that they've asked to be as far as layers on our GIS. They've asked for us to start looking at thoroughfare maps and some of that sort of stuff, so we're looking at that. I believe.
Now, is that information we have to come up with to give to them?
They're whatever we can get in motion.
Okay.
This was more of a prep of here's some of the stuff we're gonna need.
Okay.
So that stuff, I know we've sent, there was a whole list of GIS, and some of them we already do.
The steering committee is going to be huge, so please keep us informed on the development and the process of that steering committee.
Okay. I believe, yeah, the paper that they sent with what we had, I think right now the commissioners have that steering committee sheet. I don't think they put nothing together. I'm just saying, there's a sheet with like, they want 10 to 12 on the steering committee, and there's like 40 different areas.
Now, is that the commissioner's responsibility to develop that steering committee, or is that ours?
I believe it's theirs. I think what they're going to do, I think TSW is actually who sends the invite.
I don't know that I like that.
Could I ask a question on that, Mr. Agnew?
Sure.
The steering committee, I guess I'm not, of course, I haven't been here, but what is the steering committee? What's the purpose of it?
For the comprehensive plan. They're going to look for 10 to 12 people.
To develop the comprehensive plan or to
be a steering committee for. I mean, there's going to be a lot of town boards and stuff like that. So I mean, there's going to be a lot of public involvement. But just like this, there's going to be a steering committee that guides.
Okay, it guides the development of that plan, we're saying. Is that what we're saying?
Right.
Okay. And the question becomes, who names the steering committee?
Yeah. That is a big question. Is that driven by Indiana code? Is that driven by
We need to ask Mr. Glickfield about that.
the conditions of the grant? Who's?
I want to touch Kleinpeter.
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
We're going to find that one out quickly.
Who's it, Mike? Is that the?
Mike Kleinpeter.
Yeah, he gives some.
You probably know.
Okay.
Insight on that, that's normally does.
Okay.
If you remember, when we first started talking to him, there was a lot of commissioners when we were first talking to him. And I said, well, state code says it comes to us to be recommended to them. So, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, we need to talk to Mike. But it sounds like they normally, a lot of times, whatever they did, it was with that body and not us.
I'm not rubber stamping anything.
I know, but all I'm saying is it sounded like those committees were all about what we normally deal here, not here. And we had to say, this is supposed to be.
I'll come see you. We'll get Mike on the phone. We'll get that straightened out. Okay. Other things?
90 seconds for permit numbers.
Permit numbers.
Please?
Yes.
So, and I wanted to share this publicly because publicly I shared a number that turned out to be incorrect. So we were thinking there were about 1,500 open permits. That was just looking at the number of binders and the maximum amount of permits that could fit in the binders and doing a multiplication problem. But largely because of the efforts of Director Malott and Nicole Bailey over the past year or so in sending out these letter reminders, actually a lot of those binders have gotten emptied out, or the packets have gotten bigger over time, more pictures, more neural items and things. So we have 583 total open permits in the binders. This was as of 2.5 weeks ago. I went in and personally counted. I intend to go in and count them about every 2 months to make sure we're keeping up on them. 583 open, that just means people, things that they could still be working on them. They haven't had closing inspection. 102 have expired with no contact from the owner after we contacted them and told them. I'd like to see a fine put in place for that. If we don't already. 359 are active and have been visited in the last 6 months. We are actively engaging with the owner and they're engaging with us. Of the 583, only 127 are active and have not been visited in the past 6 months, which is much better than I thought. And of those 127, 51 were visited in either September or October of 2023, so they're at the 7 or 8 month point where they're on our rotation to be looking at again. So we're really looking at about 70 permits that are getting to be really behind. So I'm very hopeful that if we can get this money and a part-time building inspector, we can get up to date and have everyone moving through the system and visited every 6 months or so. And I appreciate the efforts of the staff to accomplish that. So just wanted to put that up for the record. And I will be going back to count to make sure that we have good numbers every couple of months.
And you guys agree with that 70 thing? That's about where priority-wise you guys are on the same
I
page?
appreciate it. As doing the eye test, it looks like we've got 1,000 plus if you look at it. But it really amazed me when he said 587. We jumped up, went and grabbed a book, and thought, no way. I think the 180-day reminder, we talked about this a little bit before. I think those being on a cycle to where the email shows up, we can schedule them, we're not having to go back in the books. We've been doing that since December. And I think that's really knocking, have knocked out a ton just here in the last couple of weeks, just reminders.
And I saw dates of visits. My numbers would have been a lot worse if I counted 4 months ago.
Okay.
I mean, I think it was bad a year ago, but it's gotten better.
Okay. Comments? Questions? Anything generally? We're going to do we got to do public input because we're a collaborative outfit here. So we're going to give 2 people 2 minutes, but I want to give the commission members opportunity here. Okay. No comments? Public comment, 2 minutes, Jerry. We'll time you.
I don't care if you time me or not.
It's not going to matter.
I want to go back. Here's a general ordinance that Mr. Malott is supposed to be following for the housing, an ordinance on fences and goalposts. It says nothing about a setback or anything on it. I ended up with a stop order on a fence that he had no authority to do. Whether everybody says he did or he didn't, he had no authority to put a stop order on a fence that wasn't 6 foot tall and was on my property line. None whatsoever. When I started questioning, back in March, I went in and I found out, I asked about the permit for that address. Nicole Bailey come out and she said, oh, this permit should have been issued. There's no sketch. No sketch from the contractor. I go back 3 or 4 days later, and mysteriously there's a sketch. But the sketch shows it's 10 feet off the property line, running parallel with the alley, which it's not. Anybody can look at the GIS and know that it's not 10 feet off the property line. Those stop orders put on. And I don't understand who's in charge of who. I'm still frustrated that we have not got any confirming action as to what needs to be done. Now, I hear people on these commissions talk, and when you're personally involved with somebody,
I don't think you should make a recommendation. I think you should abstain when something is being done to reprimand somebody. I think that people should abstain if they're personally involved. And I don't think that if you're related to people, you should be involved in order to make a decision for that zoning variance, that permit. Like I said, in March, there were no inspections done on that property from November the year before. The last inspection was when it was staked out for the pole barn. There was no inspections clear up until March, till we started asking questions. Then all of a sudden, we get thrown under the bus because we're asking questions. A woman's trying to remodel a house, and they're getting bogus information from his office and him, the town council is, and different people in Fairmount, getting bogus information, and we get thrown under the bus and nothing happens.
We are trying to, we understand, we share those concerns with you, Jerry, and we truly are trying to make provisions to be better. Trust me, I don't think there's anyone sitting around this table that doesn't want to do a better job.
Well,
for us.
Like I said, if people are personally involved with somebody, I think they should abstain and shouldn't make a comment about how somebody should be reprimanded or punished.
Thank you. One more. 2 minutes, Michael.
I'll try. I have several things I want to say, but I'm also cognizant that everybody's feeling pushed for time and it is getting late.
It is getting late.
I'm going to go with the one that is most disturbing.
Thank you.
To me. The leader of the BZA recently asked to be put on the commissioner's schedule agenda for this morning's commissioner's meeting. He was denied. I don't know exactly what Mr. Hartman is going to talk about specifically in relation to his issue. But here's what does strike me. On the commissioner's agenda, they spent time talking to the head of the IT department, spent talking time to the highway department. They had several issues related to the comprehensive plan, two agenda items in particular that you made reference to here tonight, and to the sheriff's department. But they didn't have time for one of the key boards or commissions. I would think that that should disturb every one of you, ladies and gentlemen, that your peers on the BZA were not given time to speak to the commissioners. Ask the question about why did the commissioners turn a deaf ear to that. It was obvious at the end of the commissioners' meeting this morning, they turned a deaf ear to the public comment when the acting president, Mr. Wright, said there would be no public comment this morning and made no response to any of the audience members that guffawed and protested.
We're not going to follow that model.
Well, I'm not talking about you and this commission. I'm saying something that you all should be disturbed about in the leadership of the county and how they are not listening to you or listening to a board or to the BZA, perhaps not even to the commissioners. You said you're not going to rubber stamp anything, Mr. Atkins. I wholeheartedly support that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. So moved. Work. Second. Second. Coleman, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Welcome to the APC new members. We love you. Come back.
I get my knee.
I can't.